Well, guys, welcome back to part 4 of our 8-part series for our playoff previews for this year's NHL Playoffs. Today we got for you guys the number 2 New Jersey Devils facing off against the number 3 New York Rangers. And wow, man, I know I said this about the Tampa-Toronto one, but this one is going to be one of my favorites of this year's playoffs. We got two absolutely elite teams, and it's almost unfortunate that one of them is going to be going home in round 1. In one hand, you got the New Jersey Devils, who surprised everybody and just shot up the standings after being a bottom 5 team last year. Now they're right up at the top 5 team in the NHL. What a crazy turnaround. And then on the other side, you got the New York Rangers. We all expected them to be here. This team made the Final Four last year. They added some really good pieces this year, and they look to go on a run.
Man, this series is going to be absolutely unreal. When is the last time we've seen these two teams going against each other in the playoffs? A long time.
2012.
These are long rivals. These are big rivalry. This has been a long-going rivalry for many, many years now, ever since the Scott Stevens era and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, last time these guys played actually was in Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, guys, so for this video, as usual, we're going to be breaking it down. We're going to go over the offense, defense, goaltending, special teams, one X factor for both teams, and then our final prediction. And we're going to start off talking about each team's offense here. And when you look at the New Jersey Devils here, this offense has done something I don't think anyone expected. This is a very, very fast offense. All these guys seem to skate like the wind. Whether it's Jack Hughes, who can absolutely fly, we've all seen it. Guy gets 99 points this year, like true MVP candidate play for this guy. He probably won't get it because, there's some guy in Edmonton that might have something to say about that, obviously. But really solid year for this kid. And the guy's 21 years old. And he's had some help this year. They have Jesper Bratt, who back-to-back years now has really showed up and has been a really strong player. He can also skate. Sometimes I get them confused because they skate so similar. You got guys like Timo Meier, who they went out and added. He hasn't necessarily had the best meshing with this team yet, but this guy is still a known goal scorer and loves to shoot the puck. And then you got a guy who I think probably should win the Selke this year. I think he deserves it. I think he has a very strong case. That's Nico Hischier, the captain of this team. This guy, point per game player, I didn't even expect that. And I like New Jersey, but I didn't think Nico could be that guy. And just such a solid two-way game for this kid. And then you look at this bottom 6, you got a lot of speed, guys like Miles Wood, Jesper Boquist. And then you got some good shooters down the lineup like Sharon Govich. We're talking about a team that just has it all. And one guy who really stood out on offense this year, another young kid, Dawson Mercer. I know a lot of guys on social media were nicknaming him Dogson Mercer. He's got that dog in him. This guy loves to fight for the puck, and I just think he could be a big part of this run if New Jersey is to go on a run.
Flipping the page to the New York Rangers offense. Now, the New York Rangers have a lot of offensive weapon to match the New Jersey Devils, as you heard from Scott over there, who has a lot of freaking weapons. It's going to be crazy. It's a similar situation to the Tampa-Toronto series, where there's two really good teams going at it. You got Zibanejad, Kreider, Patrick Kane, Tarasenko, Artemi Panarin, and Trocheck. And you got that kid line, and then you got Barkett Gludro and all these guys on the fourth line. This team is stacked on the offense. It's going to be very interesting. The thing that kind of worries me a little bit, though, with this offense is that you got Patrick Kane and you got Vladimir Tarasenko, who is a little bit kind of a liability, defensive liability, and it worries me. And they're kind of up there in age, and they don't have the speed to match these kids, so it's going to be very, very interesting. However, these players like Patrick Kane and Tarasenko have the Stanley Cup experience, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that is going to be integrated into this group. The kid line is going to be a huge X factor for me because the kid line is the only line in that team that has a speed to match the New Jersey Devils. When Gerard Gallant put the Trocheck line with Patrick Kane and Chris Kreider, I did not like it. The line looked flat. It looked slow. But I think after he mixed it up a little bit, putting Patrick Kane with Zibanejad, I like that line a lot better. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does with the lines, what the coach does with the lines. But offense-wise, from the big name perspective, they have the names to match New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, I guess I would say these offenses are actually pretty evenly matched. I think if we're going on a name-based thing, I'd give the edge to the Rangers. I mean, looking at that top six, guys like Panarin and Kane, Zibanejad. I mean, there's so many like former All-Star players here that I think you do have to give their offense the slight edge here. But New Jersey's not that far off. I'll say it's close.
The only question I have with the New Jersey Devils will be the experience. Do they have the experience? You think they got the experience?
Yeah, that's not a category.
That is a category to me. It's an invisible category.
Moving on to the defense here. We got guys on New Jersey that just absolutely stood out to me this year. This team was just like loaded, minus the sixth defenseman, but their top five were really solid. I mean, you got Dougie Hamilton this year. Not only did he put up an absolute ton of points, very, very solid defensively as well compared to past years where he might have struggled a lot more. It helps because he had his partner, Jonas Siegenthaler, one of the best, most underrated defensive defensemen in the entire league. Analytically, this guy is always so solid, and I mean, just he's such a good fit with an offensive-minded guy like Hamilton. Then that second pair they ran with Graves and one of my favorite players, John Marino, who was such a great addition in the offseason from Pittsburgh. This guy changed this team's fortune quite a bit just by himself. Just his sturdy play and how good he is with that stick defensively. He really made this top four really solid and one hell of a penalty killer. And then also Damon Severson, when he stays out of the box, which I know I cried about pretty much most of this year, but when he stays out of the box, this guy is a pretty solid defenseman in his own right. And now we get to see if the sixth defenseman for this team might be Luke Hughes, Jack Hughes' brother. And I mean, if he can do anything like he did last regular season game, this team could be really exciting on defense.
Yeah, the defense is where it frightens me to be a kind of a Rangers fan here. But yeah, for start off, they recently acquired Nico Mikkola, and they've been using this guy a lot more than
they love that guy.
They're using this guy a lot more than I thought they would, and it kind of scares me. They're playing him with, I believe, Adam Fox for most of the time. And they're putting Trouba with, is it Keandre Miller?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they also have Braden Schneider on the third pairing defenseman. So it's good. It's a pretty interesting group of defensemen. I think they're good enough. They're okay defensively. They got Ryan Lindgren as well, so that will help. But the thing is, no, I personally have to put the edge to the New Jersey Devils in terms of the defense core. I think their defense core is definitely deeper.
Yeah, well, I think these two teams are very, very evenly matched. I think it's a landslide in the Devils' favor for defensively. I mean, this is just a way better defensive defenseman core. I mean, I know obviously the Rangers got Adam Fox, who is elite. In my mind, he is top 3 defensemen in the league overall. Really solid guy. But as a core unit of 6, I think the Devils have it by a fair bit.
And now we flip the page to the goalies. Now the goalies is a massive, massive gap. I mean, who's gonna trust Vanacek for crying out loud? But for the New York Rangers side, this is gonna be the real X factor. They got a guy called Igor Shesterkin, and he is flat out. I know for the regular season he hasn't been the greatest, but we all know what this guy can do. He's like a fascie. He plays when he wants to, and when he wants to play, he plays very good hockey.
Yeah, on the New Jersey Devils side, Vitek Vanacek, he had a career year. Let's make no doubts about it. This guy was unreal this year for the Devils. He was one of the big reasons this team became like a team that was this high in the standings. I mean, last year the Devils dealt with some terrible, we're talking like all-time bad level goaltending from the 7 different goalies they had. But you know what? Vitek was there for most of this year, played a big amount of games for this team, and it showed because, I mean, this team rocketed up the standings. And sure, he doesn't have the playoff experience, and yes, I'm not even going to pretend like this isn't tilted in the Rangers' favor because, I mean, Shesterkin, probably second best goalie in the world after Vasi, right? So, yes, I'll give the edge to the Rangers, but I wouldn't count out Vitek on playing really well.
Now, let's talk about the special teams for these two teams. Well, we start out with the penalty killing for the New Jersey Devils. As you can see on the chart, they're top.
Solid.
They're solid. They're really, really good. It just shows how good their defensemen are. The defense, how the Nico Hischier and all the whole defensive core do as a defensive unit. They're very good They're up there in a penalty kill, and you look at the New York Rangers. They're kind of like far more down there. So you can kind of see which team is better defensively between the two teams. And for the power play, as you would imagine, they're pretty similar. They're about the same in the kind of the mid tier for these playoff teams here.
Yeah, what's weird about this to me, both these teams have really solid power play players. Like, I mean, I'm shocked that they just don't get goals. It's pretty weird. You think that they'd be up there with the Torontos and the Tampa Bay Lightning for power play percentage, but they really are kind of more middle of the pack. Both these teams can roster some really solid talent, and I do expect special teams to play a big role in who wins this series. All right, guys, now we're at that part of the show where we're going to give you one X factor from both teams, one player that we think can make the difference if their team is to win this series. And I'm going to start off with New Jersey here. And for me, it's going to be Ondrej Palat. We're talking about a guy who has been to the Stanley Cup final 3 straight years. This is a New Jersey team who does not have a lot of experience. A lot of their players are really young. They're not really that high in the leadership department. I mean, Nico is a good captain and all, but I mean, they haven't been around for that long. 21, 22-year-olds. But you know, Ondrej Palat knows how to win a Stanley Cup. He knows how to win. This guy's a proven winner. And last year, he was the difference. He was the X factor for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
My X factor will be Vitek Vanacek, because without a goalie, no cups. You're just not going to win without a good goalie in this league. That's it, especially in the playoffs. So I'm going to pick Vitek Vanacek.
No, that's fair. I can't even argue that.
Yeah.
Now for the Rangers, I got a bit of an interesting one, but I mean, I kind of hinted towards it when we talked about the gap here, and that's going to be K'Andre Miller, because the defensive gap for these teams is big, and I think K'Andre Miller is going to be one of those young players who has to really step up and play some big minutes and be very solid against these guys like Jack Hughes, Timo Meier, Nico Hischier.
And my pick for the Rangers will be none other than my boy, Patrick Kane. I mean, this guy, ever since he got acquired by the New York Rangers, honestly to God, he is not playing well in this team. So I want to see him play like how I remember him playing. So he better show these boys how to play in the playoffs. This guy has the cup experience, so he better lead these guys on. So, yeah.
And finally, we got to give you our predictions here, guys, on who we think's actually going to come away with this series. And for myself personally, call me a homer if you want, because I like this team. I'm taking the New Jersey Devils, and I say they're going to win in 7 games. It's going to be a long, dirty, hard-fought rivalry.
I am going to pick the New York Rangers in 6 games. Destroy those teams. Let's go. But until next time, we'll see you guys in the Western Conference previews. Take care, guys.
Take care. Have a
Bye.
gooder.